Sunny's gonna be the star of my video instead, not the Glorious. Right, Sunny? Alright, hello you guys. Welcome back to my channel Plant Pause, where we hang out and talk about all things plants and cats. We are doing something new today. I wanted to introduce a new series, so this will be a weekly thing. I'm calling it Purrfect Plant Showcase. I know, it's a cute name. I liked it. I thought it was a cute idea to incorporate like a plant of the week, but little cat spin on it, you know? Perfect. Anyway, on this new series called Purrfect Plant Showcase, I plan to kind of show and tell one special plant of the week. I thought it would be really cool to kind of just go over everything regarding that plant. I don't know about you guys, but for me, I really like doing research about my different plants and where they come from, their origin, characteristics, just kind of what makes them them, and also like where they came from in the wild and their natural habitat. I just think all that stuff is really fascinating to know, and I believe that knowledge is power, so I thought it would be fun to just kind of research a new plant each week and we can learn together about it. All right, and the plant of this week for our Purrfect Plant Showcase, I chose to focus on the Philodendron Glorious. I have two Philodendron Gloriouses in my collection, and so I'm going to show those to you guys, and then I also just kind of wanted to talk about the background of this plant, where it came from, its characteristics, and then also some helpful care tips that I have researched, as well as my own experience caring for the plant in my home. All right, I've got the Philodendron Glorious here next to me. You guys might have seen this in my recent plant tour that I just did, in which at that time it was putting out a new leaf. This is the newest leaf. It wasn't even unfurled at the time of that plant tour, but now it came out and it is beautiful. I love it so much. Just perfect green velvety leaves. Let me back up. I'm sitting in Erin's office chair. Anyway, this is on a moss pole and it seems pretty dang happy in here. As well as this new leaf that I just put out, it's also working on another one. All right, you guys, let's get on to the fun facts about this plant. I wanted to talk a little bit about the origin of this plant. This one is a hybrid of the Philodendron Gloriosum and the Philodendron Melanochrysum. I know a lot of people can mistake this plant for a Gloriosum, and they are very similar looking, but this one is known to be a climber, while Gloriosum is known to be a crawler. One other way that you can kind of tell the difference apart is Glorious usually has a longer leaf shape and are darker in color typically. And then another cool characteristic is that the Glorious has like oval shaped petioles here, this part of the plant, and then the Gloriosum has like a D-shaped petiole. So they're kind of flat on one side and then rounded on the rest of it. So I thought that was kind of a cool way to like tell the difference if you're not sure. Also, Philodendron Glorious are epiphytic plants, so they are climbing something, but I think they have also been known to crawl, and I think people might have tried to make these crawlers and had success with that. So I'm not really quite sure much about that, but obviously I have this one climbing. One thing that I thought was a really cool fact that I didn't know was that this is not a natural growing plant. It was man-made. The Philodendron Glorious was actually bred in Australia by a man named Keith Henderson sometime in the 1970s. And next I wanted to go over the care of this plant, some things that I found online that might be helpful, but then also share my experience growing this plant. So starting with light, this plant prefers medium to bright indirect light. The leaves can burn. I know velvety leaves are a little sensitive to that, so keep that in mind if you have this plant. Do not keep it in any direct sun. And then watering on the Philodendron Glorious, it is advised to let at least 50% of the soil dry out between waterings. But since I've had this plant in my care, I actually let the soil dry out pretty much completely and it's been just fine. And then for fertilizer, it's recommended just to use a balanced household fertilizer, and then just refrain from fertilizing during the off season, so like October to spring, late October to spring, and then just fertilize during growing season, just like any of your other plants. As far as how often to fertilize, I personally do mine weekly. about every time I water, but I do such a light dose of fertilizer because I water down my fertilizer quite a bit. I'm terrified of burning my leaves with fertilizer burn, so I've just always diluted mine quite a bit. So I do mine weekly, but if you would like, you can always do it monthly too. And then for soil, obviously this is an aeroid, so you want to use an aeroid type mix, so that's going to be nice and airy and light, and you want it to have really good drainage. So extra additives to your soil for drainage like cocoa bark, perlite, all that kind of stuff. I will try to show you guys what I have mine in. This is what the soil looks like in mine. I obviously have quite a bit of chunky substrate additives in there because it does not like to sit in water. And then as far as humidity for this plant, it is a tropical plant, so if you can, 60 to 80% is recommended for this plant, but in my house, it's really just not realistic, especially in the summertime. My house is a lot drier. But if you're able to provide humidity either via a humidifier or like a pebble stone tray or anything like that, it will probably be a lot happier. I have this in my plant room and it stays usually about 50 to 60% in there. I haven't had any problems with it and its humidity, but obviously every household is different when it comes to growing conditions. For me, I live in Oregon and typically it rains a majority of the year here, and so I don't really have a problem keeping up the humidity, except for when it's really dry in the middle of summer like today, which is almost 100°F day. But anyway, yeah, like I said, if you can maintain higher humidity, obviously the tropical plants appreciate that, but in my experience, I have not had a problem with it living at 50 to 60% humidity. And then like I said a minute ago, this plant does not like to sit in water. It does not like its feet to stay wet. Hence the need for really good drainage. This plant, one of the common issues with this plant is known to be root rot or overwatering. This plant does not do well with that. Maybe err on the side of letting it dry out between waterings if you know that you tend to overwater. And then toxicity. This plant is mild to moderately toxic, so keep away from kiddos or pets in the household. If they do end up ingesting any of this plant, they are known to have some GI upset and maybe some mouth irritation. So just do your best to keep this out of reach of kids and pets. Okay, and then last but not least, propagation. This plant I have heard can be a little bit finicky to propagate. I personally have not propagated this plant yet. But I have heard that there is a higher success rate with using stem cuttings in sphagnum moss and then also putting stem cuttings in water. So either water propagation or putting stem cuttings in sphagnum moss. I feel like those will be your two best bets. Eventually I probably will propagate this plant, so we'll see how that goes, and I'll let you guys know what my success rate is on that. But yeah, let me know if there's a plant that you guys want me to highlight in next week's video. Leave a comment below. Even if I don't have the plant in my collection, I would still love to research it. All right, you guys, that is all I have for you. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know below, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you can be notified of my new uploads. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day wherever you are. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!